can us humans do nothing right? I mean, even doing good can do us bad. Are you kidding me? Is this where we're at? No. No, we're not, guys. I'm being a negative Nancy only to get your attention here because guess what? We're solving the problem. Don't worry, we've got it covered, okay? The answer is yes, doing good can actually challenge us in more ways than one. But today on The Raw Onion, the podcast where we peel back the layers of leadership, career, and culture to get you to the core of what's actually keeping you stuck, we're talking about all of it, guys. The good, the bad, the ugly in doing good. And we're going under the lens of this month's theme, the May theme of resilience, because there are so many different versions of it. So today, as your host, Stephanie Ohanessian, hi everybody, thank you for being here. I'm the founder of Triage Coaching and Consulting. That is all about your inherited burnout cycles, and we get to the root of it in the most neuroscience and incredible way possible. And my co-host, behind-the-scenes producer, Yoshie Barnett, who also has a coaching company, Lotus Flower Journeys, who really gets you when you're in that fork in the road. And today, we're actually sort of there, right? We're in that fork. We're in that proverbial fork. Not that stick a fork in me, I'm done, but that, hey, what direction do I go in now? So we want to step into the chaos of our professional life, our midlife, our personal life, all the lives, right? To diagnose the damage, build that immediate strategic fix so you can thrive. So this month, we're tackling that word resilience because it does get thrown around a lot. We're not talking about that toxic, grit your teeth, suffer in silence, work harder, kind of resilience. No, we're done with that. Guess what? It doesn't work. That's why today we have somebody who is going to explain how it does work. We're talking about the true physical recovery and how the word resilience lands on so many different plates in so many different ways, guys. So our guest today is here to completely dismantle the way we look at work, passion, and survival. Mazarine Treyz is an American multi-hyphenate polycreative artist, trainer, speaker, writer, human design reader, consultant, and facilitator of spaces for radical imagination. This is what we need in the world, folks. I'm getting excited. And hasn't even said her first word yet. I'm so excited. She's worked in the nonprofit space, government, and entrepreneurial spaces, given over 100 keynotes and workshops in 4 countries, directed 15 online conferences, written 10 courses, gotten ongoing government contracts with 5 different municipalities, and she ain't done yet. Lifelong artist, and she lives in Oregon with a growing garden. Yup, we've already got a lot in common on that one. Incredible community and a wonderful human with her by her side, as well as her sweet little cat. So she is a powerhouse author, and that's why we have her on today, guys. A champion of midlife women and a somatic healing expert. And before I bring on our revered guest, somatic healing, that's what I want you to all focus on today especially, right? Resilience, burnout, the nonprofit sector is where we're going to kick it off because Mazarine's groundbreaking new book is Healing for the Nonprofit Sector. And this goes a lot deeper than you're going to realize. Just work with us while we flow today. Mazarine Treyz, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here, my friend. How are you?
Stephanie, thank you so much for having me. Yoshi, thank you so much for making it all flow in the background. I appreciate you both so much. I'm Mazarine Treyz. I use she, her pronouns, and Healing from the Nonprofit Sector is my 4th book, and I'm excited to talk with you about it today.
I mean, there's a lot we're going to talk about, and I am really thrilled because, when we connected for you to be a part of this podcast, even in our initial conversations, there was so much that goes into what we're talking about. And the world as we see it is, we all have eyes and ears. It's on fire in a million different ways. And many of us see that we need to go out there and lend a hand. We see that what we can do, we all have our certain talents and gifts that now's the time, guys. Now's the time to share it with the world, right? But as we dive into your book, as the guidepost, I'd like you to just introduce our readers to this concept of the burned out nonprofit sector, the employees, how this fits in with the bigger picture in our society right now. And what are we talking about that is different? What are we sharing with people today? Because resilience is our theme, and this is really, the pulse of the word resilience, if I've ever heard one. So please introduce us a bit to the impetus for writing this and what you saw as boots on the ground here.
Sure. I would say this is not a burnout book. I would say that this book and what I'm working on is more of a political education around the systems and structures that keep us stuck and ground into the ground. So I talked to a social worker once, and she said the nonprofit sector will drag you through the street. It will chew you up and spit you out, and it will. And part of that is the wages. And so we have to talk about class, right? And part of it is the expectations that white supremacy work culture puts on us that allows us to get caught up in urgency, only one right way. I have to be the one who does it, individualism, right? Paternalism, and paternalism in this case means, well, if I'm in the nonprofit sector, I'm helping those poor, unfortunate people, and it makes you kind of a virtue hoarder and you look down on others, that you're helping a lot of times. So, because they need the help, and our society says individualism and pulling yourself up by your bootstraps is the most important thing to do. So, when you yourself need help, it's much harder for you to do it.
Yeah, well, do you think that's a learned behavior? Let's say put society on blast for a moment, if you will, for lack of a better word. It's desperately needed that we do so right now.
Mhm,
The patriarchy, wages as a disparaging wage gap.
mhm.
Am I accurate in assuming, and I hate to assume, but it seems pretty obvious this is all by design?
It is, and that's the systemic piece. And so my book is divided up into 3 sections: the world,
Yep.
the sector, and then you. And what I really want, with the reason that I put the sections that way, is to help people understand that if you are feeling overwhelmed, overworked, and just like you don't know what to do in a world on fire, that's by design. And when we feel like we aren't as far as we'd like to be yet in our lives, and we have some shame around that, whether it's a number in our bank account or other things we wanted to do, or maybe we have some grief that we haven't done it yet.
Yep.
That's also by design. It comes back to the system. So I'm hoping by putting the world and the sector in the beginning of the book, people will not blame themselves for any overwhelm, stress, or lack of money in their bank account that may be right there. That they get to say, wow, no, the system is working as designed. It's not a broken system at all. But the thing is, it was made and it can be unmade. And that's what we have to keep reminding ourselves. It was made, it can be unmade.
This is interesting because, and you and I have chatted on this concept before, that we feel, and we are two, and I'll include Yoshie obviously as well, out of millions and millions of people who feel a shift. There's a rumble happening. The lava is about to pour out of this proverbial volcano, and we can get excited about it or we can get fearful about it. And I'll be honest, I'm a little in between, right? Because this is the education that people need, myself included. None of us are immune to wanting to do good, but the education around that seems to be what's missing, and what's, again, going back to this concept of by design, inherently being pushed down, because why would the powers that be want us to actually understand the mechanics of this machine, right?
Right, right. So you were taught history badly on purpose. You're
There
like,
you
let's say, "Oh, just, memorize some dates." You're like, "That's boring. History's boring," right? History is actually very, very interesting, and it's one of the things that really gives me hope in a time where we see more and more rights being stripped away and people being put in camps and killed
go.
and all of these things that make us so upset every day. So if we look back, at different civilizations, we see how they fall. And that's part of the book as well. But one of the things that I just like to tell listeners here is, feudalism, the fall of feudalism. It took a very long time in Europe. We had a Black Plague. We had people not trusting the government anymore, not trusting the church. And so losing their faith in the whole system. And as it crumbled over decades, medieval serfs became landless and they moved around, hashtag van life, right? And
Right, and
so
yep.
that's what I wrote in the book, right? And so we're seeing a similar crumbling of capitalism right now, which is very interesting. And so it actually gives me comfort that, well, if this has happened before and people went on, then it's going to keep, we'll be okay, or at least some of us will be, right? If we can keep that in the forefront of our mind that this system is supposed to crumble because it is toxic and killing the world.
Well, in your book too, you mention, and again, I'm not sure now that I'm thinking about it, as sort of this trifecta of the world, the sector, and you, this idea, I don't know if it would blend into all three areas of really capitalism exploiting human compassion and exploiting us, the worker bees, right? And when I say us, and I'd like you to break it down how you see fit, you're the expert here, but I'm saying us as the collective us. And at some point, I hope we understand that it's not a left, right, center game. It's humanity against this very, very dark operation of the mechanics of this beast, right? But weaponizing us as humans to keep that system moving. How does capitalism essentially weaponize, really, a person's mission and passion if we all are inherently good people? We're just run by what? I mean, my God, that's a whole other conversation. But talk to me. I mean, really, this is the exploitation of all of us, right?
Yeah. And so somatically, it starts with you not being able to catch your breath, right? The I can't
Right.
breathe of the beginning of the Black Lives Matter movement and, you know, rushing from here to there, being kept too poor and too busy with caregiving for children and for elders, which, by the way, is what capitalism runs on. It runs on women's unpaid labor. And so David Graeber had a wonderful book called Bullshit Jobs, which I encourage people to read. And he talked about how the people that are doing the most sacred, important work that should be paid the most are the people who are in preschools, helping those children become little adults that will then hold up society after we're gone, right? Or after we're unable to hold up society, right? And then the people that are doing the most harm are the extractive industries, the insurance industry, the financial industry that is so predatory. And we see this in systems and structures. I could go on about that, right? But I'm going to pause and try to answer your question as best I can. The way the system is designed is such that I don't think there's like a single person or organization behind this. This is not a conspiracy theory podcast episode. It's really just like, if you remember, if you were ever in school in the US and you heard the story of the Boston Tea Party, the Boston Tea Party is corporations not wanting to pay taxes, and that's why they set up America, and that's who America is set up for, is corporations. And so this is the political education part. Once we start to really grasp that deep in our bodies, we start to realize how we have consequences and they don't. And then you start to see it's just ruling class, corporate oligarchy, corporate totalitarianism versus everybody else. And it's becoming really obvious now.
Yeah.
Like, mask off. You know what I mean? So you could take that and look at the political scene federally and say, I'm doomed. I'm helpless. I'm hopeless. I'm done. right? And I don't blame anyone for feeling that way. But when you look at history, you can see that we had capitalism start 500 years ago with the fall of feudalism, with a plague, with people losing faith in systems, and with people revolting. There was a peasant revolt. It was extremely powerful. And there was another revolt in Iceland in 1975.
Yeah.
The women's strike. Now look up that Wikipedia page. It's also in my book. And
Yeah.
you can see that for one day, women didn't do any work. Most of the women in Iceland did this. And the next year, they had a female prime minister and they got the concessions that they wanted. So the thing that we have is our organizing power. And I'm not saying it's going to be easy, and I'm not saying people aren't going to die. They definitely will. And we have to change the system because it literally is killing the planet. So now we've had socialism as a concept for about 200 years, but we're seeing it gain traction in so many global south countries. And also, China's doing so much now that is really giving me hope. Even if they are a surveillance state, even if there are things that we don't agree with that China is doing, it's not perfect socialism by any means. It's not about that. It's not about perfection, which is also an aspect of white supremacy culture. What we're seeing China doing is lifting hundreds of millions of people out of poverty, making trains that are faster than God, like having so much to do with, you know, showing how if you think in decades instead of election cycles, you can create a culture and a system that really supports the people. They're persecuting pedophiles there and they're stripping billionaires of their wealth. Like, that's what I wish would happen here, don't you?
Well, I mean, the fact that the system is so evil geniusly designed where there's red herrings all over the place to distract from one of the most important topics, which, well, we don't need to get into all of them, but there's one, obviously, the e-files, right? I mean, there's so many different buttons that need to be pushed that I think there's a lot of effort into ensuring they'll never get pushed, right? And this isn't even in my notes, but I'm listening to you because, you know, let's say a socialistic government, for example, and compared to the mess we have now, which ain't working, however capitalistic one might be. And I can respect the idea loosely, right? That you get up, you work hard. I get that sort of effort reward mentality to a certain point. Obviously, we've now perverted it into such a way here that it's not working for anyone except the 1%. Again, 100% by design. Now, you mentioned, China, surveillance state. I'm just curious, what is your opinion in terms of, this autonomy of self, this autonomy of the soul that I hope we really truly see in our lifetime, where people are allowed to be 1000% who they are as an energy being on this earth. Systems will always try to control in one way or another. I'm curious to ask you, compared, let's say, to folding and breaking system of the West, which is collapsing, and compared to maybe a more socialistic approach, which for China is, with over 1 billion people involved, where do morals come into this picture? Let's say, would, in order for a socialistic society to operate where we are still fundamentally seen,
Mhm.
we are still fundamentally heard, but we still do have to follow and obey, right? If we're going to make that work, that system, it's still required that we follow a set of rules. Where does that moral compass shift from the mess we're in here in the West now versus, let's say, a potentially more socialistic, large society implementation of socialism?
Right.
Where do we land here?
Well, so the thing that gives me hope and the thing that we keep forgetting is in 2020, we showed that we could do everything that would support society.
Yeah.
We paid people to stay home. We had a rent and eviction moratorium. We had public health become the number one issue that everybody cared about. And we did all of this without like years and years of organizing. We just did it.
Yeah.
And so look at what Mandami is doing in New York City. He's just doing it. So the thing that helps people here is ballot measures, but in some states you can't do that.
Yeah.
You live as if it's socialism now. You find the places where it is, libraries, fire stations, right? Like things that government pays for that makes your life better that you pay for with your taxes, right? So I believe in socialist inevitability. And the reason I believe that is not some airy-fairy, the arc of history bends towards justice stuff. It is not that. It is that, for example, just as an example, in recent months, we've seen messaging from the federal government, which is very concerning to everyone in the world, and people saying, well, China is stable, China is helping. They're doing that with a purpose, but they're also doing it in such a way that they turn away from the dollar, and they're doing that more and more. If we're going to save this planet and the US drops 32 bombs a day, which it does, then this is the way to do it. It doesn't matter, in a way, what we think as individual citizens. What matters is how can we support the people around us as society does what it does, right? So we have to learn different skills, learn how to get along with each other better. But I do believe in socialist inevitability. And also, if some people want to have like a little fun, check out Fully Automated Luxury Gay Space Communism. There's also a Wikipedia page and a book about that. And there's a little mention of it in my book. Star Trek looks like that. Fully automated luxury gay space communism. Again, people might say Mazarine communism didn't work in Soviet Russia. Communism didn't work in Cuba. Communism, blah, 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 right? That's the propaganda. Everything is propaganda, right? But the lie that we get told is that it didn't work then, so it can't work now. I have friends who lived through Soviet Russia. They're like, we don't want this again. I'm like, super get that. What if we could take the best aspects of capitalism and synthesize them? What if we could take the best aspects of socialism and synthesize them? What if we could take the best aspects of localism and synthesize them and put them into one? We don't have to do what's been done before because we can learn from history, right? Part of the problem is how we respond to the problem. I'm going to repeat it again because Bayo Kamalafi is a genius. Part of the problem is how we respond to the problem. And that goes back to the nonprofit sector, people saying, oh, you're so burned out. You should just take a bath. Like, that's not the problem.
Yeah.
Did I bring it home? I don't know. Was that too much of a left turn?
Not at all. I'm actually my brain is going a million miles an hour because I'm not disagreeing with anything you're saying. And what I'm hearing too, and this is something that I think needs to be a part of this human movement forward, whatever this forward movement is going to look like, we are not sustainable to continue on the way we're continuing on. Whether our listeners are going to agree, disagree, hey, I welcome all discourse. But the one thing we will have to agree on, folks, is that this way is not the way and it's not sustainable. And what I love hearing you say too, and this is really what's coming home for me, is that we as individuals have a lot more power than we think we do. And I'm not saying violence. I'm not saying anything that anyone wants to assume. No, you as a human have more power than you think you do. And that's sort of this hamster wheel that it's almost getting to be, respectfully, a joke as human beings. Hey guys, we did it already. It didn't work. We can't do it again. Or we did it. Let's do everything we can to not repeat it. Okay, is anything that we're throwing at the wall sticking? No. So why not actually look at things that don't work and then try to change, iterate, right? Iteration in any business. How many times do they say that? 40, 50, 60, 100 times you have to make iterations in order for a business to run. But us as humanity is on the line, we're not open to it. Those are the questions, right? And so knowing that we as humans have more authority over our movements and our mark we're leaving on the world, if we break it down as the world, the sector, and you, how would you guide an individual mentally, somatically, because I know that's a big deal and I think we have to talk about that. how are you inviting people to say this is my responsibility? And I know that's why folks, she's showing me the book and I'm telling you I'm gleefully egging her on. There we go. There we go.
Yeah, so let's
Talk
get
to me,
into it.
girl.
So there's this thing called the Hakomi method, which is very, very simple.
There
I
we
learned
go.
about it many years ago. It's reproduced in my workbook, which is also called Healing from the Nonprofit Sector. And I have another one called Leaving the Sector, if that's what you want to do. So the first number one item somatically is rest.
Yeah.
You
Now,
want more
before
about
you
that?
go on, Mazarine, explain
Yeah.
to the listeners. Now, are you guiding them in terms of their foothold in the world, the sector, or themselves, or is this sort of amalgamation of all three?
This is an amalgamation of all three. If you
Got
want to
it.
know what the next right move for you is, as an individual or society or whatever, you rest. And this is the thing that capitalism really tries to let you not do. They're like, oh, you're burned out, buy a product. Oh, self-care, skincare. You've seen this shift in the last 10, 20 years, and other people have talked about it before me, of course, that, there are people that say, oh, you just need to take a really expensive long vacation and then you'll feel better. But it serves capitalism and Guy Debord's Society of the Spectacle, right, as well, to have you seek an experience rather than seeking what's inside of you, which has been there all along. And one way to access that, one way to access your satisfaction is to rest first.
Yeah.
Then you get clarity. Then you take the right action. Then you get satisfaction. And this is why happiness psychology is bullshit, because happiness is a byproduct of satisfaction. It is not the goal. Now, if you never come to full rest, then you don't get clarity, then you don't take the right action, and you never have satisfaction. So that's why rest always, always, always has to be number one. What you do with that rest is up to you. But people will get clarity saying, okay, well, even if it's like, oh, I took a nap, now I'm hungry. Great, clarity, action. If you can, go eat a sandwich, whatever, right? Simple as that. But because we're unfortunately, tied to so many different things to keep us moving, whether it's our phones or things around us, the 3 jobs we have to live under capitalism or whatever it is, right? It's hard to just let your mind wander and not look at a screen, right? So that's something to consider. One of the reasons I wrote my book is because I rested for a long time. My brother died in 2023, and I went to the woods and I cried and I let the trees hold me.
Yeah.
So when you think about rest, it can look different for different people. Trisha Hersey of the Nap Ministry, check them out. Definitely follow her. She has a wonderful deck of cards about rest. She has books. Get her books. If you're curious about rest, that's where you start. I don't have a list of how to rest in my book, but she has got so many brain bending things that she says that really make you question how we're told we have to live.
Well, and what I love that you're bringing this up, and folks, I don't say this about a lot of things, but I don't have more words to enthusiastically really say buy this book and workbook, get it, because it's, even if you are not a rebellion for change, all right, even if you're trying to figure out your own brain, if you're tired and you don't know why, rest is number one for a lot of reasons, like Mazarine is saying, because it gives you that window to actually say, wait a minute, let me check the facts here. What am I doing right now? How am I really feeling right now? What's the root of it? And you're nothing if you don't listen to yourself and offer this. So I don't mean to interrupt you, Mazarine, but as we're going through this, there's method to the madness, guys. This is human stuff here, she's explaining.
And that's exactly, you're leading me to the next page of the workbook, which is the feelings wheel. Once you're resting, you understand more about how you feel.
Yep.
If your feelings and needs as a child were never or rarely taught as something that you should listen to, whether at school or at home or wherever you were, then this is a very key diagram for you. So I'm pointing to it. You can look it up online. You don't have to buy my book. I hope you do. But the feelings wheel is right here. In the beginning and the middle of the feelings wheel, there are words like happy, sad, angry, worried, right? Words that little kids will know. And I just showed this to a little kid last week, and she's like, "I'm feeling peaceful." I'm like, "That's so great." She's 7, you know? I showed it to her little 4-year-old sister. She didn't quite get it yet. Well, she wasn't really reading as much, which is fine. But then as you get out to the other levels of the wheel, you'll see that there's more gradations of those feelings. What kind of happy are you feeling? What kind of sad are you feeling? And further out, so you're like, "Okay, well, I'm feeling frustrated," let's say. Great. Now that you know what you're feeling, the next page has the needs wheel on it.
Yeah.
The needs wheel says, "Okay, I'm feeling this way, so what do I need? If I'm feeling frustrated, I need maybe I need community, maybe I need some of these things, right?" So anyway, I'm showing it to you, but of course this is just audio. So go ahead, check out the needs wheel. You can find that online as well, or look at my book or the workbook. That's what has it in it. And needs wheel, if you're feeling frustrated, maybe you want hope. Maybe you want inspiration. Maybe you want serenity. Maybe you feel like your life is not really yours. And so the way we nurture our radical imaginations is we keep saying, my feelings matter and my needs matter. Now, if you're not used to saying that because you're being chewed up and spit out by a system that says those things don't matter for your childhood or your adulthood in various work environments, then this is going to feel like a challenging section to you. But I really encourage you, and you might say, well, Mazarine, that's selfish. And I'll just say selfish is a word that has been used to control women for many years. And the
Say
thing
it again. Say it again. That's a big one.
selfish is a word that has been used to control women for many years, Stephanie, and your listeners, right? Raw Onion listeners, you know this. And so you said in the beginning, well, I want to be a good person, and I want to challenge you to say, what if you didn't have to be a good person? What if it was enough for you to just be a person? What if you've already done enough in your life? You don't have to prove anything anymore.
Isn't that wild? That in and of itself is radical thinking.
We're taught that we're not enough, and we're taught that we're too much. So there's another diagram in here that I think you'll really enjoy called the Table of Feelings. And I learned this from Kaja Urbanek. And she is awesome. She has a book called Unbound, which I also encourage you to get. And I've taken many, many classes with her. And so one of the things you can see here, and I'll describe it to you,
Yep.
you're sitting at the head of a rectangular table. On your right is a word that says sadness. And then next to it, above it, next to on the other side of the table, there's right there is like anger. And then the next one is joy. And then the one at the top is inner critic. So that's just a start. So you just sit at when you're feeling your feelings, when you're resting, you can say, okay, sadness, what do you have to say to me today? Then anger, what do you have to say to me? Then joy, what do you have to say to me? Then inner critic. And so I've done this with people before. And one of the things people were really surprised by is how loud their inner critic was. And I think if you've been taught that you're too much and not enough, especially as someone growing up female in the society, your inner critic is going to be very, very loud and say, how dare you be selfish? You have to prove your worth. You have to keep doing, doing, doing for everyone. And so when I say capitalism is built on women's unpaid labor, I challenge you to maybe do a little less of that.
You know, let me ask you something. All of these emotions and the fact that, and this is something I want to ask you too, emotions are obviously, they live in our bodies. That's something that I would love for you to explain to the listeners. But all of these emotions, you know, none of this is a walk in the park, folks. But it is so radically enlightening because this is where we're at, right? We have to come back to ourselves and realize there is no shame in the selfish game. Think about that. The word doesn't even truly exist because what is it? What are you if you don't take care of yourself? And when doing this work, and I've worked on a few of these on my own in the last week or so, and I have to say, and this is something that we've touched on before, and I'd like your opinion on it now. Anger is the thing that sort of came up for me first on all points because I'm pissed at what I'm seeing and hearing and living through. And it's almost clouding everything right now. So I'd like your opinion. Anger is an empowering emotion. And okay, so she's basically a wizard. She's showing me the page that says the anger iceberg. So, all right. All right, take it from here, Mazarine.
All right, all right. So anger is a gift, and that's a section
Okay.
in my book. My
Yes.
friend Josh said that to me when I was in high school. I had no idea what he meant. I was suppressing my anger so hard, but he kept repeating it and he yelled it and he yelled it all the time. And I'm finally able to understand what he meant. And I just want everyone here to know anger is a gift. It's your
Yeah.
self-esteem asserting itself. When other people have problem with their own anger or they lived with a rage monster when they were young or whatever it was, or maybe at work, you tend to think that anger is the problem. No, anger is not the problem. What you do with it can be the problem.
Can be.
Can be. But you can also use it to fuel your entire business. I have. It's great. I'm an angry person. I love being angry. It fuels me. It's really, really a powerful feeling. So when we have the courage to stay with our quote unquote negative emotions, and this is part of the Jungian theory of the shadow, right?
Yep.
We're able to uncover this repressed energy that can finally speak and finally say, this is what I need. My needs matter. Maybe it's somebody at your office taking credit for your ideas. Maybe it's, being hazed when you were in the military, right? Maybe it's, wow, those people keep getting the keynotes and I don't. What am I, chopped liver? Whatever it is, right? The anger iceberg I'll just describe to you, and you can
Yes.
look this up online as well. It's also in my workbook. Anger is at the top, but underneath it are so many other things. Feeling overwhelmed, feeling jealous, feeling anxious,
Mm.
hungry, pain, disappointed, embarrassed, shame, guilt, lonely, or threatened. How could you not feel these things with the current political climate? Feeling threatened, feeling overwhelmed, and feeling disappointed. Anger hides a lot of other things, and anger is not the problem. I welcome your anger. I love your anger, Stephanie. I love it so much. I love your listeners' anger. Anything
Yeah.
I've said today has made you angry? Good. Listen to that. Ask what's underneath that.
Yeah.
Ask that. Like, I'm not here to tell you how to think or what to feel, but if you find a feeling, follow it, because then you're going to find what truly fulfills you. Not makes you happy, but is satisfying. And then you're going to find the next right thing for you to do.
What I love about how you're building this up in people's minds, and it's this idea of inherent hope and potential, because, I'm sort of that neuroscience nerd who, and this has been part of the journey for me because I like understanding what goes on in the brain and the body. So at least for me and the people I work with, there's a neutrality around it, right? There's a link to the emotion. Oh, okay. So if I'm feeling angry, if I'm feeling sad, if I'm feeling shame, what does that do up here in my brain? What is firing? And then we know what fires together wires together, right? And so there's this understanding that you're painting this picture of that I really appreciate. A quick little nerdy session, folks. And Masreen knows this, that science is really, even when we're listening to a friend or a colleague, or let's say in back to the nonprofit sector where you're seeing all of these injustices and how everything is so set up by design to really essentially earmark failure for all of us. Our brains don't just log that all as data, guys. We all physically get stimulated with pain, with grief. So even seeing somebody getting hurt, the injustice, it's not just an observation we're making. We're physically feeling it in our own body. That is called the pain metrics. There's actually points in the brain where it feels like it's happening to us. And so that's where, between Mazarine's work and all of these questions we're bringing up today, we really do funnel it back to this concept of refocus this idea of perspective in selfishness. Because unless you understand your own emotions, what belongs to me, and that's not saying I don't have empathy for the other. No, absolutely, it's the opposite. What you're feeling could very well be what that other person is going through, but you need to understand the mechanics of yourself before you can go and be a change maker for the world, for the sector, for yourself, and life as we know it. Does this make sense, Mazarine, as the expert?
I've just been in therapy a bunch. I wouldn't say I'm an expert, but I would say that I am excited to hear if people try this and what they find. I
Yeah,
will say this, one of the earliest philosophers, Parmenides, said we grow through strife.
yeah,
But another early philosopher said, know thyself. Once you start staying with your feelings, you're much harder to manipulate. You're much harder to fool. If you want to stop being a puppet for capitalism, staying with your grief, staying with death, staying with the things you've turned away from, if it's been anger,
yeah.
can help you so much in becoming more autonomous, free, aware, and alive, awake. And I want that for everyone listening.
Well, you are the epitome of doing the work, and that is why it is such an honor to have you here, because we need hands to hold right now. And this is for everyone. And I'm not saying even cast everything with a political net here. This is just a human net. We need to hold each other's hands right now.
As we walk out of the dark and move towards what is next for us. And I love that both you and Yoshi, with your business practices, help people see what's next, because it isn't obvious to us in the middle of this. And we're going to keep being in the middle of this for some time. So if you're wondering what's next for me, this doesn't work for me anymore, whether it's my relationship, my work, my lack of work, my business, whatever it is, my relationship with another person that's not my partner, whatever, you get to think about what's next with Yoshi and Stephanie. Now, this book may also help you with that. I have a section in the book called Rewilding and Letting Go, and I have another section about shutting the door. And I want you to flex your muscle of letting go of things that don't serve you anymore. And that could be very long friendships that you've had. It could be a career that you've dedicated a decade of your life to. It could be so many things, right? And there's grief there. But Sarah Ahmed wrote a book called Complaint, which is really excellent. And if you also want like a reading list after hearing me quote
Yep.
so many books
Well,
today,
absolutely.
go to healingfromnonprofits.com. There's just a click the thing that says resources. It's all there by subject matter. So go forth and conquer there. But Complaint by Sarah Ahmed, she has an anecdote where a person that she knew was not being treated well by her university that she worked. And so she shut her door for a year and only opened it a crack to let students in. And otherwise, she didn't interact with people. And that was very healing for her. So she said, collect tales and leave trails. And this book is my trail. Like, here's
Yeah.
how I got out.
Yeah.
And if you want a workbook about maybe doing some of the things I did, go for it. If you want to do something completely different, starting with the Hakomi method, starting with
Yep.
connecting to your feelings, starting with connecting to your needs will help you find the exact right thing for you.
And if listeners listen to this today, and whenever today might be for whomever out there, and I know they're going to resonate with everything you're saying, even if they're not ready to hear it yet, which I think is the most important thing. What would you invite someone to do today that would, if they don't have these resources yet, if this is the first time they're seeing and hearing what this is that we're living under in this way, because this is a really, really deep, this is a rich and full of depth new way of looking at our collective society, how would you invite someone to begin this shift of mindset and this new sort of work if they want to start to do it?
There's several things they can do. Number one, look up the feelings wheel, make it your phone background. Just check in with it when you can. There's another app that's called, I think, How We Feel, that I have for my Android phone. You might also be able to get it for other kinds of phones. And I check in with it every day about how I'm feeling. If you don't even have a connection to how you're feeling right now, could be because capitalism, could be because your childhood, which is also influenced by capitalism, right?
Yep.
So getting a better political understanding there's many different books that will help you. Black Shirts and Reds by Michael Parenti is a really great book to start with. Another one is Caliban and the Witch by Sylvia Frederici, and that's also listed and linked on my website. But a third thing I would say is come to full rest. Don't even have your phone in the bedroom with you. Come to full rest. Slide down on the couch. Start trying to remember your dreams. If you're dreaming, what did you dream about? You know, that really, really is something I think is available to any of us, is closing our eyes and resting, no matter where you are. Do that, and that will help you start to connect to yourself and disconnect from capitalism. And the fourth thing I'll say is there is a diagram called the 15 aspects of white supremacy culture at work. And once you start to see it, you can't unsee it. Of course, I've also reproduced this diagram in my workbook,
Yes.
but you can absolutely just go to like the website. There's a whole website, go through it in great detail. There's these aspects at work, and then there are antidotes there as well, which I did not reproduce. So that's something to consider as you move through the world. How much of this do I unconsciously want to keep reproducing? Disclaimer, not calling anybody a white supremacist. This is not just for white people. We're swimming through this water all the time. I happen to be a white person, socialized, racialized as white, of German and French ancestry. So know that when I say this was like a light bulb going on in my head and I can't stop talking about it and it affects everything I do. I hope it hits you the same way, and then you will start to deprogram and unlearn what you are unconsciously acting like, and that's a gift to you.
Well, and as it becomes a gift to you, you alchemize and become a gift to everybody else.
Yes.
And that by nature takes that elephant out of the room, let's say, with that all consuming power struggle, right? That we're all fighting this larger beast.
Right. You can break the little capitalist in
Yes.
your head first,
Yes.
right? The little dictator in your head, and then it will ripple out from you. I'm not telling you exactly what political action to take. I think you should
Right.
organize where you are. Don't worry about the federal scene. The thing that makes people feel like they can believe in conspiracy theories is because they feel isolated and powerless. And we're not here to say that, but locally, what can you do? How can you be connected?
Yeah. Well, and that's the big stuff, right? Because at the end of the day, we go back to shaking hands with a neighbor, and humans are designed a certain way. And right now, we're so out of alignment with how we were designed.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we're in this situation, right? So
Of
that's,
course. Of
I mean,
course.
when we say of course, that's not being frivolous about it. It just, when you take that bird's eye view and look far enough back and look far enough ahead, you can see, yeah, okay, that this actually makes a lot of sense. Not that it was right, but of course we're here.
And that, of course, releases you from shame.
There you go.
That, of course, is exactly what my brother would say. And it's thank you for bringing it back to, of course, this is happening. This is the natural outcome of capitalism. So what do we do now?
Right.
Right?
And with that, of course, Mazarine Treyz, I sincerely thank you, because this is the stuff that is going to be needed in these decades ahead. This is for the long game, guys. This is recalibrating from the roots to the branches and all that's in between. And what I love about how Mazarine paints these pictures and does this work is that there is an excitement in her voice. There is hope. It is not gloom and doom. It is actually a thrilling moment to be alive. And I don't say that lightly. Of course we're here, right? We're ready for it. So, Mazarine Treyz, thank you. I want to get the outro with your beautiful voice. Tell everyone where they can find your work, because this is where it's at, guys. And I will just say thank you so much for today and being a guest on the show.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Yoshi. Thank you, Raw Onion listeners. You can find my book at mazarinetreyz.com. You can also go to healingfromnonprofits.com. You can find it on Amazon. I'm excited to hear where this conversation goes next and to go back to the theme of resilience, I believe we're going to get through this.
Better than how we came in. Not a doubt in my mind either, my friend. Thank you. Thank you. Listeners, we don't have a personal flaw up in our brain or in our body. It's just the fact that we need some tactical intervention, and this is the way you do it. This is the way you do it. So on behalf of all of us here, Yoshi A. Barnett, our beautiful guest, Mazarine Treyz, and myself, Stephanie Ohanessian, we thank you all so much for listening to The Raw Onion. Keep on trucking, folks. Got a lot to look forward to. Let's get to work. Over and out.